Good morning, everyone. I'm not sure everybody knows me, but I think I pretty much know everybody that's on. But for those who don't know me, my name is Shecorie Conley. I'm the owner of River City Tax Solutions based in Danville, Virginia. I am a small yet busy tax and accounting firm. I provide tax preparation services, advisory services, payroll, and accounting and bookkeeping. So I pretty much do it all in that realm. If you have questions on an individual basis, or if you have a business, we do service individual and business entities. So I was asked by the group today just to kind of discuss some tips and things that I see in general when we're working with small business owners, whether they're first timers or this may be the first time they've taken their business seriously, and the past year they're trying to get ready for the tax filing. So I was asked to speak on that today. So I just want to kind of go over some things, some tips and things I do see. One of the main things that I could suggest to small businesses is to keep and collect your records. It's really important to keeping your records throughout the year if you have a small business, because your records will accurately record your earnings and your expenses, and they affect how much your tax liability will be. So we want to make sure that you are, keeping those records in good shape. And if you don't, know how to do that, simply maybe consult, a bookkeeper. A lot of people see bookkeeping as not in need. If you're a business, they want to try to do it themselves, and it's literally just more than entering data into a software. And you have to know basic accounting principles, and those may be some things that you just out of your realm that you don't do. So I would strongly suggest, if you're starting a business, the first thing you do is when you open that bank account, and then try to consult someone that can help you with your accounting and bookkeeping. The second thing is just to report all your income. I mean, just report it. It might seem obvious, but it needs to be said. There is no way to get around to try to fool the IRS. Okay, so when you are going to the person that you are having to sit down and review your records, and you're going to start to prepare your taxes, please report all your income, especially if you were contracted for specific services, and those companies are required to file 1099s on you if you were paid in excess of $600. So if you decide that you want to you forgot or you don't file it, the IRS still has that 1099 on file. So if you submit that tax return and that income is missing, they would, make adjustments, and that possible could trigger an audit. So we want to make sure keeping our records, that's a part of keeping our records, right? Making sure that you know who your customers were or vendors or whatever, and that you have that record keeping, and that so you can report all that income. The number one pet peeve for me that I see that a lot of our small business folks do, commingling funds. We need to separate the personal and the business income, and we need to separate the personal and business expenses. We should be opening up our business accounts, guys. I can give you some pointers on the banks that, really good banks to deal with to build that business relationship. Credit unions are great as well, but we need to do it. We need to make sure that we're not commingling funds. Because what happens is, if you start doing that and there's an audit and they start reviewing your bank statements and they see a lot of personal stuff, that can be mistakenly, regarded as business income or business expenses. And you just don't want that type of thing, you need to do. So we want to make sure that we are making sure that we are separating it. The next thing, know the tax deadlines, guys. Know the tax deadlines. Okay, so I have a lot of people who sometimes they call me and they said, I did my personal return, but I need to do my business. So I try to educate them a little bit or learn your entity, like how you're like, what's your business entity? Are you a sole proprietor? Are you a LLC? Are you an S Corp? Are you a C Corp? Okay, so there are different deadlines for different types of uh, business entities. Okay, majority of our small business owners, you guys, we're either a sole proprietor or we're LLC. But the IRS disregards the entity if you're a sole proprietor or your LLC. The LLC is a disregarded entity if you are the only person that owns your business. So the IRS is basically going to say everything, all your business income is going to flow and or expenses is going to flow to your personal 1040. So that means your deadline is April 15th. If you owe taxes, your deadline is April 15th. So one of the things I suggest people is to learn your entity and learn your deadlines, okay? If you cannot pay your tax liability, if you have one, you should file an extension, but that does not mean that you get an extension on paying what's due. It's an extension on the filing, okay? So talk to someone, call a professional. I mean, you can email me, just find out what those dates are, you guys. So we'll know when we need to file our return. So that is something that I would suggest that, if you're a small business owner, just getting that information and make sure we know the deadlines. Classifying the business correctly is another thing that I see a lot of people when it comes to filing their taxes or just they have their business classified wrong because they have maybe saw something on YouTube, TikTok. Please hire a professional. Back to my first bullet, hire a professional, an accountant or a tax professional that can assist you to making sure that you are in the right classification as far as your entity. It's depending on your income. Have them look at your income. If you are just starting out, it may not be wise to try to file as an S Corp because there are IRS qualifications and things that you have to abide by, such as you have to pay yourself. Okay, so you can't be an LLC by yourself and pay yourself a paycheck on a W-2. That is not allowed. So back to I stated, hire a professional, please. That is the number one thing. I see people coming in the office and they have all kinds of things that they've done because they're looking at someone else, something they saw, or talking to someone, and their classification is all wrong. So making sure prior to tax season that you're in the right classification. And if you don't know, try to find out, speak to a professional that can guide you the right way. Another tip, documentation, knowing the tax breaks that are available to you. So that would be a tip, is consulting someone that is in the industry to find out what tax breaks and how they work before you start doing things on an assumption. Example, purchasing a vehicle, but that vehicle may not qualify for the actual tax break that you're trying to do. If you are purchasing equipment and want to know, how is this going to apply if I'm trying to get a tax break or deduction or write-off, finding a professional, discussing those, do your research, and then before you make that purchase, making sure that you have all the documentation in place that you need any event that you have to prove why you had that tax deduction. A lot of people read on section 179 as a tax code, will allow small businesses to write off equipment or vehicles, that things are primarily used for the business, but there are some limitations and restrictions within that. So just making sure that you're having conversations with a professional. I had a situation where I had a client made a purchase, but was not able to take the full deduction that they thought they was able to do, and they were disappointed. So that's why I suggest maybe before you go in making big purchases and in your business, to find out, okay, so how would this affect me and my tax liability, that sort of thing. I'm reading my notes, y'all, I'm sorry. Making sure that we are not, we're filing 1099s for our business. If we have contractors that work for us, I see that is a tip. I'm gonna give you a tip that I see that as a common error that we don't do. The deadline, knowing the deadlines for that, and that is January 31st. Also, if you decide that you want to hire employees, that we're not misclassifying them. I have people who say, well, I have employees there on a W-2. Have you filed payroll taxes for them? And they said, well, I pay them a 1099. It's two different classifications. So making sure you know how to effectively classify your employees. One, it will cause a lot of trouble if you don't, penalties, fines from the federal and the state level. So we want to make sure that during tax time that we're not, that you know what classification that your employees are, and filing those 1099s and getting those W-2s on time. Okay, so that's the number one thing I do see as well. They say, I don't know how to do it. I don't do it. How can I do it? And so, you know, you're kind of scrambling after the deadline to get W-2s and 1099s out. And so that's something that, you know, as a business owner, we need to make sure that, you know, we're doing too. Also, planning, tax planning. If you're a small business owner, you need to be thinking about tax planning. Tax planning is making sure that we're not overpaying the IRS, which is something as a small business owner that we can do when we don't properly record our business transactions. We don't think about how to effectively plan for the future when it involves our taxes. So we want to make sure that you're talking to someone on when my business starts to grow. Because eventually, you know, everybody is going to get to a point they're going to start to grow. We want them to be able to grow. So as my income increase, what can I do to legally lower my tax liability for my company and to be sustainable? So that's what tax planning comes into play. So you not only just want to have somebody that is going to sit down with you and going to prepare your taxes, but you want to be thinking about tax planning. Thinking about ways that you can save for your retirement and how that can substantially lower your tax liability on your company. So ways that you can, you know, eliminate some of that cost or cost savings and things like that. So that is a tip that I would highly recommend someone is to be thinking about that as your business grow, as you know, you start to expand. Really start looking into effective tax planning, and that goes hand in hand with your accounting as well as your record keeping and things as such. I'm sorry, I'm really not I have all my notes everywhere, y'all, so just bear with me. The last takeaway that I can say for to keep things less stressful for entrepreneurs is just prepare starting January. If you know that you're going to be using a vehicle to conduct any type of business, for example, write down your odometer reading at the beginning of the year. So at the end of the year, you can have your odometer reading, and also effectively keeping a log of your mileage, not trying to guess, you know, just prepare, making sure that you have your record keeping, making sure that you have your bank accounts are separate, all of those different things, I really, really urge a small business to do. Communicate. When you hire that professional, make sure it's someone that you can communicate with on a regular basis. You should be meeting with your accounting professional on a quarterly basis. If this person cannot commit that to you, then that probably isn't a good person to work with, because every quarter you need to be looking at and deciding, factors of how I spent my money. If you're trying to budget and set up a budget for your business, I want to know what areas you're spending money in, what areas you need to cut back or add money to different areas in your business. Those reports and your financial statements should be available to you on a quarterly basis. And you should be able to spend time with your professional that you're working with and discuss those things, because you want to be able to forecast. You want to be able to look and say, hey, this time last year, my sales was this. So maybe I want to bump it up next year, forecast and say, hey, I expect us to have a 25% increase in revenue. But if you don't know, or if you don't have your financials and kind of can look at things from month to month or quarter to quarter, it can be a little difficult. So when you hire that person, make sure that they're comfortable with being able to meet with you at least a minimum on a quarterly basis. So that is a tip. Being said, if you're meeting with that person on a regular basis, when it's time to file your taxes, you have already had communication with them throughout the year. So there should be conversations and things that have may evolved through the year in your business, and that person knows, and you have that communication, and that, you're not scrambling at the end of the year and say, oh, by the way, did you know this happened, or I purchased this, or I took this loan out. And just knowing the nature of your business, what's going in, what's coming out, what's happening, and you have that communication with them on a regular basis will make things a lot smoother. And that's basically, I had all the things that I have, tips that can make things a little easier as you're, relative to your tax filing. But the most important thing is to be organized, and to get your accounting software set up. If you are a new business and you don't have that in your budget, there are ways that you can do it. One way is Wave Accounting is a free FREE accounting software. Is similar to QuickBooks. It does not have all the bells and whistles as QuickBooks, but it can get you started. It's very easy, very user friendly. You can connect your business account to it, and it will record your transactions as they come in your bank account. And as your business start to grow and you need different financial reports, maybe you can migrate over to QuickBooks and find a plan that is comparable to, that you can afford, and get that bookkeeper. But having something is better than nothing. And is a lot better than having an Excel spreadsheet, because an Excel spreadsheet can't really give you the financial reporting that you need. The financial documents such as your profit and loss and your balance sheets. Those are the two most common financial reports that you need as a small business. But Wave Accounting is free. I love free. Free is my favorite word. And so it's really, if you don't know, I can't do QuickBooks. That is a good application / software to use to kind of help you get started. And at least you'll have some records to help you at the end of the year. And that's all I have.
Thank you. That was phenomenal.